So, Dan, can you talk a little bit about the mechanism behind the keyword planner? What is happening behind that machine?
Sure. I think to talk about mechanism, I think we first kind of briefly visit the reason why we need to do cluster, right? I think uh, I underestimate the amount of information that was given. So a lot of people didn't even realize that cluster is a very important part of any organic marketing workflow, right? And so I think the first thing, let me share my screen real quick, is people need to, I think we need to kind of talk a little bit on why cluster is important. So I think I have a use case here. I mean, people were requesting a niche. So I think what better niche than tiny house? I mean, is one of the biggest niche right now happening in the US. If you look at this, you see the total search volume is about 2.5 millions a month,
Nice.
and that's insane amount with the keyword
Mm,
itself about 301,000 search volume. That's just, to me, is insane. So it's no longer become just a small niche. It's become a very, very big niche. And the reason why I still classify them as niche, I will share with you a little bit later when we look at them on a deeper marketing insight point of view, right? But let's look at cluster. Why is cluster important? So I think the first things we have to understand is um, the mechanism of Google. When they rank for any keyword, they were trying to figure out if that keyword, because have if that keyword have any other variation, right? Meaning that if there's a keyword, for example, best coffee in town, or it should be the same meaning as the keyword, the, this town, what is the best coffee in this town? I mean, those are two keyword different in the way it was typed down, but they have the same semantic meaning. So Google will then understand these two semantic meaning of these two keywords and provide you with the same kind of result pages, right? And you will happen to see that a lot with, let's say maybe this keyword near me, and then tiny house for sales, for example. You start seeing that the ranking of the sub position over here is the same as ranking the sub position over here. So when these two keyword with the same sub position are being ranked for, you could group them together. And instead of having to write a piece of content for a single keyword, you can now then write a piece of content for all of the keyword in the same cluster and have a chance to rank for both keyword instead of just one. I wonder if I explained that okay.
yeah.
How's
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, back in the early days of Google, when Google was dumb, you know, green apples and red apples were two separate searches. So you would have to create one page about green apples, one page about red apples, in order to rank them. As Google got more complex and started to piece together semantic meaning, it then understood that red apples and green apples are part of the same theme. So and what that translates to is that if if years ago you had 139 keywords and you've refined all your keywords by search volume and keyword difficulty, because that's what you had in those days. And you have a list of 139 keywords. That meant 139 articles. With
yeah,
clustering essentially you're grouping keywords that are semantically related, that should be on the same page. So instead of 139 articles, you could actually end up writing 10 or 11 articles,
yes,
which is
that's
a lot
correct.
less
Yeah,
work, but a lot more powerful, because now one page can rank for hundreds, if not thousands, of keywords that are
mm,
all to do with that theme. Whereas
yeah.
before, you had one page that actually ranked for red apples and one for green apples.
Yeah, and it also helps you to not run into what the term is keyword cannibalization,
Mm,
because let's say if you try to write for red apple, which is one article, and then green apple, which is one article, but in the eyes of Google, red apple or green apple should be in the same article. You then will actually kill one keyword will kill the other. So red
mm,
apple will rank for the top, but you
yeah,
won't rank for the green apple simply because the other keyword is trying to rank for the same keyword in Google's mind. So
Yeah.
then it's this conflicting of the way you build your content. Therefore, the clustering mechanism is exceptionally important.
Hmm.
And it's also even more important that people there are two school of thought and the two way of doing clustering. The first way is semantic clustering, and the second way is subposition clustering. Semantic clustering essentially just mean that there's a semantic algorithm where you just simply group keyword with similar semantic sort of meaning together without any kind of check and balance. So I don't know whether this keyword should group together is correct or not, but meaning wise, they look correct. So I will just group them together, and that's for a long time, majority of what agency and SEO agency have to do is they have to do it by hand. So they would
Hmm.
export a list of keyword out, and then they would do by put it on an Excel sheet, and then they would do by column, and then kind of search terms that are similar, and then they just kind of group them together. So these are by hand. Eventually, someone built an algorithm to do that, but to us, those are not the accurate way to do cluster for SEO. So what we do instead is we do exactly what I shared with you the mechanism earlier is we look at each of these keyword sub position. So a single keyword will have a 10 sub position that appearing, and we look for the second keyword with the same with different 10 position. And what we do then is we will look for this is what we call cluster level. Cluster level meaning that in each of those keyword now we look for 5 URLs that are similar. So same URLs, let's say five classical level five mean 5 URLs appear at the same sub position result for these two keyword. Then the meaning of that would be that these two keywords are semantically linking by Google definition. So the keyword here is by Google definition, right? Yeah.
I'm glad.
So that's essentially is the mechanism behind how we do it. And so a cluster means that a group of keyword with similar URLs ranking for each of those, let's say level by level, which is five in 5 URLs that rank that's the same. Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not doing that clustering manually. I tell you.
Well, that's what we had to do in the past for a very
Yeah.
long time when we were running agency. It was horrible. It was a nightmare because with a list of keyword 4,800, it would cost us 2 days,
Yeah.
and
Easy.
there's no guarantee of
No.
whether or not it's correct. So this is a way to do it really fast, and yeah, it's very accurate. I mean, in the past, in the previous update, it was like 200 minutes. Really, I mean, it's that long for 4,008 keyword, but now I think it's roughly less than 10. I think like 8 minutes. The last time
Yeah.
I did this was like 5 minutes. Depends on when how the server is doing at that moment. If it's
Yeah.
overload, it's probably like 10 minutes, but then if it's not, it's like 5 minutes.
I've
So
seen it go really, really fast.
yeah, so that is essentially the mechanism of clustering.
Okay, so let's go on to the data source. One of the things about choosing a tool to work with that I think is super important is knowing where the data is coming from. The reality is that excuse me, there's a computational cost and an access cost to get real data, and that's why most tools have a premium. They're paid tools because obviously the company has to keep the lights on, but also they have to pay to access that data. And one of the things that well, just to digress a little bit, I remember years ago. I was using a particular tool. I won't mention it by name. It was a long time ago, but I ranked number one for a keyword that the tool showed as having 70,000 searches per month, and the reality was more like 10 searches per month. It was incredible, and I was back and forth with support, sharing screenshots, and eventually they said, "Oh, it was a glitch in the data." And
Glitch in the data.
a glitch in the data, yeah, it's the data. The robots got it wrong. The problem was I didn't rank for that keyword overnight. It took a lot of time and effort to do that. So imagine doing that across an entire campaign of keywords that are not verified. A lot of keyword tools guess It's a good guess. Maybe they use data points, maybe they use proprietary algorithms, maybe they use something else. Um, but for me, the data source, knowing where the data is actually coming from, is a key decision factor. So one of the first things that attracted me to write to Zen is the fact that you transparency on the data sources. So can you tell us a little bit about those data sources, and just for anyone who doesn't know?
Yeah, sure. I mean, first, what we are doing is we're trying to do organic marketing on Google as a search engine, right? So I think the most legitimate and the most accurate data source you should get, no matter how you think it could be inaccurate, it has to come from Google, right? I mean, it's like you try to rank on their platform, so the whatever data they provide you has to be the standard of truth that you have to rely on. I understand that. I mean, the number typically doesn't really truly reflect the true volume search, simply because the way it's called delay in data, because you cannot really update this data in real time. I mean, imagine you have 500, 500 or a billion of billions of keywords that are concurrently appear every day that are being searched. You can't just simply update a billions of keyword in real time. That would cost an insane amount of computational cost and
Hmm.
server and everything else. So what they did is they do a very delayed calculation. So whatever present to you are typically not really the actual 100% real time of the search itself, but it is as close to the truth as you can get with any source. There are two sources of data when you go to Google, and we are one of a partner of Google, so we are actually official partner. And the reason you have to be now is that Google will only provide you API, official API data access point if you are their partner. And it's a very scrutinized process for you to become Google partner. They actually have to go and check your source code and make sure that the product you build actually makes sense and provide values to Google's end users. So that's what we had to go through in order to show Google that, hey, we should be your partner. We build stuff that are good, secure, that helpful for users, and that's how we get in to access the Google database. In terms of Google database, there are two sources of keyword. The first is Google keyword database, and the second is Google keyword suggest database. So Google keyword database is what you typically would get when you search a normal like keyword planner, right? They would give you a bunch of keywords that they suggest to you, and those are Google keyword database. And the second thing is Google suggest database. Typically, is what let's say you search on the search box on Google, you will see a pop-up, at the bottom showing all the other suggested searches that appear. So we are able to crawl both of that database. If you look at our data, you'll be able to see if I form the data from bottom to top, you'll see a bunch of keywords that are less than 10 searches. And most of these keyword that less than 10 searches are keyword from Google suggest database. And you click on those, there typically no historical data that show to you. And in SEO term, these are the keyword that they call phantom keyword. So phantom keyword is um, a fascinating concept that I don't think many people are aware of. So if you do SEO, you realize that in your Google Search Console, a lot of time you will rank for keyword that you don't even know exist, right? And if you put that keyword in like anywhere you check, it's like it showed 10 volume search or even no data, but it gives you traffic of like 100 or 200, and you're like, where is this keyword coming from? And a lot of time that's how you get, and those are the keyword which I call phantom keyword. And phantom keyword typically work with earlier website when you want to grow your base of organic traffic very quickly. So all you need to do is look up all these keyword that is volume search very low, and you try to write and optimize your content and article, internal linking and topical authority on those kind of keyword. And you just kind of go in there and write a bunch of content. Put out volume. These keywords are typically a lot less in terms of competition. I turn on all in title over here as well, so you can see all of the all in title here typically are zero, right?
Hmm.
So you have a very good chance
Hmm.
on ranking most of these keywords. And when you rank for one, and if you can cluster them, you can rank for most of the other. And that's how you kind of build the very beginning basis of authority. You show
Mm,
Google that you cover all the smaller keyword, and when you rank, that's when Google kind of accept that you are the authority in some way, not really a key authority, but you really appearing with people on that end. So I think those are, I would say, three concepts. Where our data source are Google keyword. All of our data actually come directly from Google keyword. One thing I want to note it here is that uh, a lot of Google have a very strict rule with certain keyword. For example, keyword that relate to pornography, that relate to gambling, typically they will ban. So sometimes when you search for those kind of keyword that are banned in Google policy, our tool will not provide the keyword and will show you a batch code no data. And that's the reason why some keyword will not contain data that you cannot use.